Good afternoon, and thanks for joining us. My name is Matilda Reckford, and I work for the EHLS program at the Center for Applied Linguistics, and I'm joined today by Maria.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm at Georgetown University, and I am the program manager and the director of recruitment here.
And Anna.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anna Gay. I'm the program manager for the EHLS program at IIE, and we handle application and selection.
And we are thrilled today to be joined by two special guests, Tanya.
Hi, I'm Tanya Zabo. I'm one of the instructors in the program. I teach the career skills development component of the course. Welcome.
And Matilda.
Good afternoon. I am Matilda without an H, Rial, and I am an EHLS scholar, NSEP alumni from 2020. Yes, thank you.
Today we will talk about the English for Heritage Language Speakers program, and then we're going to take your questions. And I'll pass it along to Maria for a quick overview of the EHLS program.
Okay, so let's go to an introduction of the program. So EHLS is a scholarship program with a focus on professional communication skills and career skills. So English communication skills and career skills. The program trains advanced speakers of English to be effective communicators and strong candidates for federal jobs. It is hosted by Georgetown in Washington, D.C. Every scholar admitted to the program receives a full scholarship funded by the federal government. The program is 8 months in length. The first 6 months are full-time on the Georgetown University downtown campus. The final 2 months are part-time, conducted online. Participants are native speakers of critical languages who have a strong interest in public service. EHLS scholars come from diverse cultural, educational, and professional backgrounds, but they are all united by an interest in and a commitment to public service. So let's just look at a little bit of background. Why EHLS? EHLS was established because critical language skills are in high demand in the U.S. government. There are other government-sponsored programs to teach critical languages to native English speakers, but this is the only program designed to prepare individuals with native knowledge of critical languages for the federal workplace. A brief background on the organizations and the history of EHLS. EHLS is a partnership among 4 organizations: the Defense Language and National Security Education Office, DELENCIO, provides funding. You will hear DELENCIO and NSEP in these presentations. DELENCIO is, I guess, the parent, and then under DELENCIO is NSEP. They are the funders. The Center for Applied Linguistics oversees instruction and coordinates language testing. That is where Matilda Redford is. Georgetown University provides instruction, and that is where I am and where Tanya is, and where Matilda Real was in 2020. The Institute for International Education oversees the application process, and that is where Anna is. EHLS started in 2006. 2024 will be our 19th program year, and I can't even believe it. I came in at the end of 2006, the very first year, and every year the program has gotten better and better, and we've tweaked it, and it's an amazing program. Okay, let's see. Let's look at the scholarship, benefits, and terms. So scholarships for the EHLS program are awarded through the Defense Language and National Security Education Office, DELENCIO. That is a mouthful. Our funder. Each scholarship provides full tuition and fees for the 8-month academic program, in addition to a living stipend. The living stipend is $3,600 per month during the first 6 months. and then it's $1,200 per month during the last 2 months. For scholars moving outside the DC area, Delanceo can reimburse up to $1,000. You should keep your receipts. Other benefits include the Georgetown University health insurance, and that is for you. If you want insurance for your family, that would be out of pocket. A laptop computer on which you can complete EHLS assignments and that you can keep after the program ends. And a certificate from Georgetown University upon successful completion of the program that in itself opens many doors, especially in the DC area, but throughout the country too, but most jobs are in the DC area. So scholars must agree to the following terms: full-time attendance and successful completion of the academic program, an agreement not to work during the full-time portion of the academic program. That's the first 6 months of the program. And it's so intensive that it would be almost impossible to even keep a part-time job, but you have to agree to not work. And then acceptance of the service requirement after completing the academic program. Okay, now I'm going to pass it to Anna.
Thank you, Maria. All right, so we're going to talk about your eligibility. You must be a U.S. citizen at the time of application. You must be a native speaker of one of the 27 languages listed on the screen here, and you must have a professional level proficiency in that language. You must have advanced proficiency in English. Your proficiency in both English and your critical language will be formally tested. You must have a college degree. This is at least a bachelor's degree, the equivalent of a BA in the US. We do have some resources if you have a foreign transcript, which can be evaluated. We can get into that a little later if you need to. You must be able to use the internet, word processing programs, and PowerPoint. As Maria said, it is an intensive program, so you must commit to a full-time day program from January through June in Washington, D.C., in our downtown Georgetown campus. And you must be willing to work for the federal government for at least 1 year. They would love it if you stayed longer, in a position with national security responsibilities, and it will be your responsibility to find that position. All right. And then some important dates here. The application is currently available. Please see our website, ehlsprogram.org, for the link to that. It is going to be on the right-hand side of your screen when you get to the website. The deadline for the application and all supporting documents is 5 p.m. on July 6th, 2023. Once an application is submitted and considered complete, applicants will be invited to schedule an oral proficiency interview, or an OPI, in English. OPIs will be administered through July 21st, but we highly recommend submitting your application and scheduling that OPI as soon as possible to receive a time that works best for your schedule. EHLS staff will notify candidates of their status in September. Some candidates will be provisionally selected to move forward to skills testing. In late September, early October, provisionally accepted candidates will complete language testing in their critical language. So first it's English, then it's critical language. And then a basic technology skills test. You will also complete an additional OPI in your critical language in September or October. That is the time frame for those. EHLS staff will notify candidates of their final status in early November 2023, and the program starts on January 8th, 2024.
Awesome, great. Now we are done with the kind of overview of the EHLS program and are ready to start our Q&A. So I will quickly introduce our guests. So Tanya Sabo has been with EHLS for 10 years and is the instructor for the career skills development component of the program. And that course prepares scholars to navigate the requirements of various federal work environments. The course also arranges weekly presentations by federal agencies and contractors to introduce the scholars to these environments. And Matilda Real is an EHLS alumnus from 2020. Matilda is a naturalized citizen who was born and raised in Sudan and South Sudan. And she's fluent in Arabic and the Sudanese dialect of Arabic and the Sudanese. And after EHLS, Matilda worked with the Library of Congress and then the CDC, and is currently an epidemiologist with the Maryland Department of Health. Matilda is also the Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion with the NCEP Alumni Association. And Maria, you mentioned NCEP earlier, which is part of our funder, so Delencio, and has other programs. But yes, I will kick us off. And Matilda, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your career path?
Thank you so much, Matilda Beckford, for the opportunity and inviting me to speak with your guests today. My name is Matilda Real, and as you just read, I was born and raised in Sudan, and now there are two countries, and I am from South Sudan, and I speak Arabic, and I've been raised there. I studied medicine in Sudan, and I came in as a refugee in 1999. So from then I have been working, raising a family, and in 2019 I worked as coordinator, international client coordinator at Johns Hopkins, and a friend told me about EHLS opportunity, so I applied. I didn't think about it because Johns Hopkins was a good opportunity, but I saw that the potential of the EHLS equipping me with extra skills that I can utilize to promote, to further my work, my professional development. So I was accepted, and I started in January 2020. Unfortunately, the pandemic hit in March, so we transitioned to online. And we finished the program online, and it has been a blessing since then. My mentor actually hired me. So in the course of EHLS, we get assigned a topic and a mentor from the federal government who is at a senior level, and we work with the mentor, and I fostered a great relationship with my mentor, and she gave me a position. Well, they hired me, and I worked for the Library of Congress for a year. And that was enough for me to complete my service requirement. After that, I got an opportunity with the CDC doing the COVID response. And after that, we did also the monkeypox and Ebola response. And last September, I got an opportunity to work with the Maryland Department of Health as an epidemiologist. And I think having that opportunity with EHLS to be able to hone my skills and communication and writing skills, because and communication, oral presentation skills as well. Like, for example, with my job with the Maryland Department of Health, they actually asked me to do a presentation and write a paper on a topic, and with the skills that I got from EHLS, I was able to do that, and that was my interview. So this is a great opportunity. If you get a chance to do it, I encourage you to do so. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm so glad you mentioned the opportunity to be paired up with a mentor in what we call the OSAP project. I'm wondering, Tanya, could you actually talk a little bit about the OSAP project?
Sure. It's not exactly my component of the program, but I'm happy to speak about it. So the program has 5 separate courses. There's reading, writing, professional oral communications, news analysis, and I'm sorry, there's 4 components, and career skills development. And you attend those classes all throughout the program, January through June. And in the reading writing component, at the end of the first session, the scholars get a topic, or they select a topic that's given to them by a federal agency, usually something that's related to their background or at least to their region of the world, that asks them to do open source analysis in their heritage language, but also in English, to answer questions that the agency is interested in understanding more about. And so this capstone project, this OSAP project, eventually becomes like the running theme of sessions 2 and 3 in the program, where the scholars are scaffolded into doing more and more research and refining their research and refining their writing style to match the intelligence community's writing style, with the input from the federal mentor and the reading and writing instructors. And the final deliverables from that capstone project are that for the reading and writing course, they end up writing a very concisely written 10 to 12 page paper addressing the questions of the federal agency. And that might not sound like a long paper, but it's actually a very concisely written paper, and it can have, many, many pages of appendices, but the paper itself is only 10 to 12 pages, and it's very narrowly focused. And the other piece of the capstone is that your professional oral communications instructors are working with you to put together a presentation of the highlights of your findings from that paper. So at the end of the intensive portion of the program, you basically have a finished 10 to 12 page paper for your agency, and you deliver a presentation in a formal symposium style to not only your mentor, but to members of the federal government and intelligence agencies more broadly. So it really is kind of it's a big research project in that you get a lot of exposure to the federal government, but also because you learn the skills to do such a research project that is so narrowly focused and so carefully crafted to have you work in your heritage language, your heritage language and in English, to pull together these different pieces of evidence to speak to the questions that the federal agency is looking for. But that's not my portion of the program.
Yeah, no, that's really great. That it's a great opportunity for people to network, and like Matilda explained,
sure. You did a great job describing. You did a great job.
I mean, it's an amazing opportunity for anyone who's interested in doing this kind of work, and even for people who, are polished academics, PhDs and master's programs people. You're very accomplished in the academic writing styles that you have honed over many years, but this is a completely different style of writing for a different audience, and so it's an awakening even for people who have strong writing skills, because whatever research you've been doing in the past is probably not funneled this way into this type of writing. So you'll get something out of the program, even if you've got, really great writing chops to begin with. So, and even if you haven't been doing research papers.
And I also wanted to ask if you could talk about your component of the program, so the career skills development component.
Sure. So my component of the program is the other sort of objective of the program. The reading, writing, news analysis, professional oral communications are the ones that are focused on language and like sort of hardcore deliverables at the end of the program. My portion is to prepare you for work in the federal government. And so typically what we do in my course is we spend the first part of the program working on building different kinds of resumes, navigating the very complicated waters of USA jobs, which is where a lot of government jobs are housed, and really looking at the principles of resume writing for different audiences. And in the subsequent sessions, we work on interviewing skills and really honing how to approach interviews, how to master your fears going into interviews, understanding that you're on a level playing field with the interviewers, but also showing deference to interviewers when you're in those positions. And there's a lot of interview practice. And as you know, the landscape of professional life is changing quite a lot. A lot of people are questioning whether or not we need resumes. Do we need cover letters? Are face-to-face interviews even happening anymore? And so those are some of the things we touch on, and we talk quite a lot about remote interviews and digital interviews, get a lot of practice in those as well, because those are the things that are changing very rapidly, and we need to be prepared for them. So yeah, it's a lot of work to get you up to speed on the changing face of professional life in the U.S., and particularly for the federal government, and that's what I hope to teach you.
Can you talk a little bit about the guest speakers?
Oh, right. Sorry. That's another piece of the Career Skills Development course, which is that every Friday we have either a federal or a contractor guest speaker that come to the downtown campus to our program to speak to the scholars for 2 hours, basically about the mission of their agency, the types of work the agency does, and what possible job opportunities would be there for people with the skills that the scholars have. For example, Department of Homeland Security has a lot of positions for immigration officers, for analysts, for asylum officers that speak critical languages. And these are just some of the jobs that are available at the Department of Homeland Security. Places like the NSA has a need for language capable loyal U.S. citizens to work for them for a different type of analyst position. And so we have representatives come in from a lot of agencies, from, the CIA, the FBI, NSA, DHS, all those people. But we also have contractors like Leidos and Manpower and other places come in to introduce themselves to the scholars and to let them know about what opportunities are available to them at their agency or contracting company. And it's a great networking tool for the scholars and for the agencies, and there's a lot of good interchange between them.
May I add just a couple of minutes?
That happens every
to what Tanya just said.
Sure.
I came to the U.S. and since the inception, I was looking for jobs with the CDC because of my background, and I have been doing it for years. And through USA Jobs, never got referred. And in 2020, when I started with the EHLS, I got referrals, I got interview opportunities, and it's to tell you what gain you're going to get from EHLS and the professional development that Tanya provides to the scholars. So thank you.
Yeah. Matilda, do you have anything else to add about your overall experience as a scholar in the instruction and in the
your job search?
Yes. I think it's to add to what I just said, it opens opportunities that you didn't know that it existed. Because I had a narrow focus. I want to work with the CDC. I want to do, public health. There's so much agency, so much opportunities that become available to you once you get to the program. And the Friday speakers, you create a network. So that's that has been my experience. And it's like the writing skills, the presentation skills, that's it's next to nothing that I have gone through. So
Tanya, what aspects of the program are most helpful for the development of the scholars' English skills?
First and foremost, I think the individual attention that's given to the scholars in the tutorials is key. Obviously, there are group classes, and a lot of information is imparted in the group classes, but not everybody learns at the same pace and in the same way. And so tutorials really help the scholars to get attention that they need on particular skills that they need help with. So for example, if you're strong in one skill, you may get more instruction in a different skill. But that's in terms of your overall level coming into the program. In terms of the hard skills overall that scholars take away from the program, I think presentation skills clearly are one major takeaway. People come into the program just terrified of doing presentations, and they leave like completely transformed that, you know, if they can stand up in front of a group of people talking on a topic they knew nothing about 4 months ago, I'd say that's pretty successful.
They look like news anchors. Sometimes they look like news anchors. They're so good.
Yeah. And the writing skills, I think, are critical as well, in that the program caters to people who speak English at a very high level, but may have fossilized errors in their writing and speaking, where they've achieved very high levels in their professions, but still sometimes choppy written products or choppy speaking that has never been addressed because everyone understands you and nobody wants to be impolite and correct you. So those are the kinds of things that come to the fore pretty quickly in EHLS, and we really work hard to undo some of those underlying patterned errors that you may be carrying around with you. And if you don't have any, we'll find some. But no, it's really the attention to the individuals that come in and where they are in the learning process that makes the most difference. But certainly the writing skills and the presentation skills are big ticket takeaways from the program.
Yeah, Matilda, do you have anything to add in terms of the English skills aspects of the program?
Yeah, and I think all the programs, all the classes complement each other. And I have been, I've went to English school since I was in kindergarten, and I thought I had no flaws in my English. But the writing skills, the reading, and the communication, it just puts everything together. And also what I've seen that has improved in my presentation is you know how to like put things together that it will flow. And that's a skill that definitely I got from EHLS.
Yeah,
I'm just moving to a better internet connection.
Okay, thank you. That's great. You get a little tour of the Georgetown School of Continuing Studies in Tanya's background. Yeah, so if our attendees, I assume and hope you are starting your application soon and are working on your application. So now I will ask our guests some questions about the application process. And so I hope you have some questions about that too, and you can type them in or raise your hand. But first about the language assessment, Matilda, do you have any insights on how applicants can prepare for the language assessment component of the application?
The first, thank you for your question. So the first important step is to apply for the for EHLS, and I think the deadline is in July 5th. I remember that, and there you have to write 5 essays, and I think the biggest problem is that the applicants do not take time to write the essay. Don't rush. Take your time and read through it, sleep over it, so that you can, and read the question, and so that you can respond to that. And after that, your language skills, your like Arabic for myself. Once I knew that I was, I was accepted and I'll have to do a language assessment, I started listening to news in Arabic. Because we don't use Arabic as much as we used to. So I started listening to news in Arabic, talking in Arabic, and rehearsing. All that helps you with preparing for the language assessment. I can add a little bit. So you have to have a certain grade that you can be accepted, and they start with you with like the easier things, and then they as you progress, it becomes more analytical, and it's just like honed things that you know about your profession that you can elaborate in English and Arabic, so that they would understand what you're trying to get across.
Yeah.
And based on my, I used to be the proctor for some of the English. It seems that you should know what's happening in your area of the world, like know the current events and what's happening, because there may be a question about that in either the English or the native language OPI.
And if I can jump in here real quick before I forget, about a participant on a webinar shared Udly. It's something that they're using. It's an AI communications coach, where it kind of coaches you through taking out those vocal fillers like ums, which are my bread and butter. So I'll pop that in the chat if that's helpful for anyone preparing for your English OPI. I don't imagine they have all 27 languages, but at least for your English, this will help you kind of guide you through at least your public speaking before Tanya gets a hold of you.
Yeah, definitely. Tanya, do you have any recommendations for EHLS applicants?
Other than seeing it through, I mean, I think that's one of the problems, though, is just seeing it through, because you start the application and then you start thinking like, oh, this is too much work. I don't know if I can do this. And I mean, the program is intensive. And so the application, I suppose, is kind of indicative of the intensity of the program. But if you stick it through and you put time and effort into the application, I think that's a pretty good indicator that you'll do well in the program. So so let that be a barometer for you, I suppose.
That's a great tip. Matilda, do you have any advice for our applicants, besides, yes, the testing and the essay questions, or maybe some more on the essay questions, because I thought that was really interesting. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I don't remember the questions now, but I think they ask you, it asks certain questions of things that, for example, things that you didn't do correctly and you would like to improve on. And one of the examples that I gave is oral presentation skills that I really struggled with it before EHLS, and that I'm trying to work and improve myself on it. And they're like, sometimes people send you to YouTube or other, but it's like EHLS puts everything together for you to for example, I didn't know about the opening statement, the hook, that you can, attract people's attention to your topic. So that's something that is not out there. That's important for you to be able to get the people's attention to, if you're just talking, people don't, pay attention to you. But if you grab their attention, then they will listen, that you have something to say. So these are kind of skills that EHLS program can provide to you. And just make sure that you take your time, go through the website. The website has a lot of information. And if you have questions, attend the sessions. I actually, when I went on the website, I saw that there was a session in Georgetown. I went in an in-person session, and I met Maria that day, and she will talk to you more about the program, answer any questions that you have. And if you're not in the DC area, I believe they have virtual sessions, and get on that session. And I think I attended the session with Maria, and then I think Cal or another organization had a session on the language assessment. So there are information out there. If you look for it, it's available. And I'm happy to share my email with the attendees. Happy to be able to give you more guidance, or if you have any specific questions for me. Thank you.
Could you talk about maybe tips for the references, or how, if you remember how that went for you as you applied?
Yes. For the tips for references, you need to ask, people for references, and let them know ahead of time what it's about. Let them know when they're going to get the emails, follow up with them, and make sure that the person has agreed to give you a good reference. And sometimes it's like, for example, I just reached out to Tanya about 2 weeks ago for reference, and she was like, "Yes, I'll do it." And she always ready to give a reference. So I sent her information, and one of the comment that I got from the HR is like, "Matilda, you are unique. You got all your references in order. We got everything in. Your file is complete." So be proactive. Make sure that they know that because people are busy. And especially if you want a good reference, so let them know ahead of time, and give them time, and let them know when they would expect the email, so that they can write something for you. One of my professors, I think I don't know if it was EHLS or something else, he told me, "Write what you want to say, and I'll sign it." So foster that relationship with your professionals. That would be helpful. Yes.
Yeah, if I could just speak to that for a minute too. What I was going to say is, when you're requesting a reference, it's very simple to just say, "I'm applying to this program. If you could please write me a reference." But that kind of puts the person giving you a reference under a lot of pressure. So a better way to approach that would be to ask the referee, "I'm applying to this program. Here's what the program's about, and here's why I think I'm a good fit for the program. Would you mind writing a reference letter for me?" Because otherwise, they just see EHLS, are like, "Oh, heritage language, Department of Defense, okay," and then they just throw something together. But if they know what they're writing about, they're more likely to write you a strong recommendation letter.
That's a great tip. I see a question in the Q&A about how do I know I'm ready for a OPI interview? What are the main points of focus? I think, Matilda, you talked a little bit about that. I think it was so it's a phone conversation, and as you said, it kind of gradually goes up in difficulty.
Yes.
And even though it's not the same questions at every OPI, you can expect that listening to the news or reading the news, as you said, is a good preparation for kind of maybe the focus of the conversation at some point in the conversation, once it gets to kind of those higher levels.
Yes, absolutely. And knowing current events, because then you can actually from the start, they'll probably start. Mine was he started asking me, "Oh, where are you?" I'm in Washington D.C. How is the weather? And then from there, what do you do? And be prepared for about anything about your career. Be prepared. I'm from Sudan. Anything about what is happening currently in Sudan. Be prepared to answer those questions and give examples. And as you know, the conversation goes on, it becomes more difficult, and that's how they rate your language skills.
Great. That's really good to kind of start picturing what that interview is going to be like.
I wanted to add something about the reference letters. Another thing that I always recommend is that you send the referee to our website so that they know about the program, they could read about the program. So everything that Tanya said, like educate them on why it's a good fit, but also you could tell them about the program, but it's also good to send them to the website.
And I just wanted to make a note about the OPIs as well, in that just remember that the OPI speaking exam it's meant to be a conversation, and a conversation builds on what you said, and it sort of progresses as you go. And so I wouldn't recommend that you stress out about taking the OPI, because it's really just a conversation, and the topics will get harder, but the language doesn't get any harder, if that makes sense. So just don't get too stressed out about the OPI.
When you're doing your English OPI, try not to use words that, excuse me, when you're doing your native language OPI, try not to use English words. You'll get dinged. Vocabulary.
Yeah, I know common questions are also about the job search during the program. And I know, Tanya, you talked a little bit about the focus on interviewing skills. Is there anything else during the program, Tanya, that helps with the job search, or and anything related to that you could speak to?
Yeah, I mean, I always think it's a good idea to kind of start thinking about job titles that you might be interested in. Those are things that we'll start establishing the first couple of weeks of the program, but it doesn't hurt to start thinking about, like, where are your strong skills? What are you good at? And thinking about what kinds of jobs what kind of job titles would be things that you'd consider doing. I can pretty much guarantee that there are more job titles that you're not considering that you'll become aware of once you are in the program. But just start thinking about, like, where do you see yourself in terms of 3 or 5 years? Is it in administration? Is it managerial? Is it in IT? Are you better at sort of interactive skills? Are you more kind of a introverted person? Because those are the kinds of things that will shape your job search in terms of what you're happiest doing.
If I may hop in here just quickly as well, while you're doing that job search, about 85% of federal positions are outside of the Washington, D.C. area. So if you are, looking to relocate, and you do need to relocate for the program, but looking to go back to where you permanently live, there are positions outside of the DMV, or the D.C. area.
That's absolutely true.
With about 15%, which is still about 70,000 jobs in DC. But you don't necessarily need to move to the area to find that perfect position. So just keeping that.
And another thing to consider is that there's also the chance for deployment to other countries as well, because some analyst jobs, some language-enabled positions are in foreign countries. So you're not necessarily moving to DC or staying in DC if you already live here. if you have no other impediments to moving around, the world is your oyster. There are positions all around the country, and there are lots of government positions around the world or language positions around the world. So don't feel boxed in.
So, Tanya, most people do get jobs in the DC area, isn't that right?
That is correct. Most people do. It's not only that they get jobs in the area, but they want jobs in the area because they know that the jobs that they get initially will lead to other jobs that may be more lucrative or may be more in line with what they want. So they end up staying in the area, and it's not a bad place to live. I mean, we live here, so
it's a great place. Yeah.
Great. I see that we're towards the end. I just wanted to share some information about our upcoming events. And while I do that, I also will launch a quick poll. So if you could please let us know how you heard about the program while I present our upcoming dates for other virtual events. And like Matilda said, it's really helpful during an application to attend these events, both the Q&As like this one, and talk to alumni, instructors, and all of the special guests that we'll announce for each session, but also our webinars where we really go into detail about everything you need to know. So these 3 webinars, what to expect, applying to EHLS, and general information. That's everything you need to know. And the more you know, like Matilda said, the more successful your application will be. So digging through the website, attending our webinars and asking questions, coming to see us in person, following our social media to see when we'll be in your area to meet with you in person, and subscribing to our newsletter, to let also other people know about this opportunity. If you have anyone in your network who you think should apply. Yes, I just wanted to cover these before the end.
And I also dropped the new sessions that we're doing in DC in the chat box. So if you want to meet in person, I have 4 sessions going on in Virginia and Maryland. In Virginia, but there's also a Maryland one coming up. So hopefully you can join me and ask me your questions in person.
Yes.
And we'll be putting that on our website, but it's not on the website right now.
Correct. And if you have any questions throughout the application process, we're here to help. So please don't hesitate to send us an email. You can contact Maria Mariani for any questions about Georgetown, the schedule, the curriculum. You can email me or telephone me for any questions about testing and scheduling your oral proficiency interview. And you can contact Anna Gay for any questions about the online application system. So please feel free to reach out at any time during your application. And that was it for my little portion of the slides. We still have a little bit of time for more questions. Feel free to raise your hand or type anything in the chat. We're here, and our special guests are here to answer a few more questions before we reach 3 p.m.
I just put my personal email at Georgetown, my Georgetown email in the chat box. So if you have a question that you want answered right away, that's the best way to reach me.
The other thing that is also important is to build your network. If you have any opportunities, and as a scholar, you will get, invites to a lot of events, student events. I am with the NSUP Alumni Association, the director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, and we do happy hours. EHLS holds happy hours as well. We just held a career fair at Johns Hopkins SAIS. And these are events that you will meet. You probably meet your next employer. You probably need your next coworker. So be open to network with with colleagues and the community, the intelligence community in DC. That's very helpful.
Thank you. Tanya, any final tips?
No, I mean, it's very intensive. It can be stressful, but it is absolutely worth it. I mean, I haven't had I've been with the program for 10 years, and I can tell you without a doubt that the scholars that come through the program are always just so happy that they went through it, and they say it's transformative. So you make the call.
Definitely. I think
It is competitive, so do a really good job on that application, because we're only accepting 18 scholars.
Yes, it is very competitive. And once you get in, you have to make time because it's very intensive. And you have to, I know people with families, and you probably need to make an arrangement if you have children, or or you're caring for an elderly. So be prepared.
Yeah. It's doable. Matilda's right. You do need to make accommodations to make the program work for you. But it's certainly doable.
Anna, I know we often have a question about if people have already submitted an application, how it would work for them. Do they have to resubmit it?
Yeah, no, thanks. That's a great point. If you have submitted a previous application for a previous year and were not selected, you would need to do another application. If that is the case, I would highly, highly recommend going back to those essay questions and really looking over those again, not just resubmitting them and hoping for the best, because like we said, it is a very competitive program. It's about, depending on how many applications we get, it's between 5 and 15% acceptance rate. So definitely going back to your previous materials. You don't need to start from scratch necessarily, but really like looking through your previous answers and crafting them out. And as both Matildas have said, and everyone on the call, really taking the time to look at your answers, sleep on it, go back, maybe have a family member check it out for grammar and things like that. Don't let them write it for you, but making sure everything is coming together and getting your point across. So really taking that time. But if you have any technical issues about logging back in, you can definitely email me and we can get you sorted out again. That part's the easy part.
If you did not get accepted, I would not use the same essay answers. Yeah. And actually, what I recommend, if you didn't get accepted, I would write my answers without looking at the old ones. And then later, maybe you could look at it, but don't look at the old ones, because that will kind of set you on a certain path. So write new answers. And then if you want to look at the old ones and compare and maybe blend, that might be another technique. But I would, if you didn't get in, new answers.
Definitely don't use the same answers. Yeah. And you may surprise yourself if you do decide to go back and look at those old answers and comparing them to the new ones. You may surprise yourself with how much your English has already improved. So
yeah, I'll just add that on our website we have the selection criteria. You can find a PDF as part of the tab on submitting your application, and so you can also see what to base your essay questions, what will be used to review them by our review panel. So that's a really good document to review as you write your essay answers. And yes, unless anyone has any final thoughts or final questions, we will end this webinar for today and hope to see you.
Good luck, everyone.
In person soon or online. Thank you so much for joining.
Good luck.
Again, Matilda. It was so great to have your insight. So thanks again.
It's my pleasure. Thank you.
Wonderful guest speakers. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for the invite. Bye.
Thanks
Thank
everyone
you.
for joining
Bye-bye.
us. Bye-bye.